Rami Khouri is a distinguished fellow at the American University of Beirut. Welcome, Rami. So we heard Yahya Sinwar very openly saying he's ready to die a martyr. I mean, within the context of this conflict and the Palestinian people, what did Yahya Sinwar believe in? Where did he figure ideologically?
He's a very complex man, and he's totally misunderstood and misrepresented in the West at several levels. His disappearance from the scene does not suddenly open up all new opportunities. Hamas is an organization that operates with an intricate amount of consultations and deliberations and elections and advisory councils and accountability. It's a very sophisticated institution that is not dependent on the presence or the views of one person, and the West totally doesn't understand that. He believed, like most Palestinians believe, that we have rights that were granted to us by the United Nations and by God and anybody else that you think can give you rights. And they're fighting to get those rights peacefully, culturally, politically, and Hamas does it militarily. It's a resistance movement. Its name is Harak al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, the Islamic resistance movement. They resist. They're the only people in Palestine, the only major group, there are smaller ones, that resists militarily. And this will continue until some progress is made or until all the Palestinians are killed. All the assassinations of leaders of groups who do resistance against Hamas, Hezbollah, some others, all of them have resulted in immediate appointment of new leaders and expansion of the group's size and support and expansion of its capabilities. Hamas and Hezbollah are the two best examples of that. But he also is a serious negotiator. He was incredibly busy in the last 10 years negotiating between different factions within the Palestinians, right, between Hamas countries and other groups. So he's a very complex guy, and he did talk about coexistence just before the October 7. He made a statement saying that if Israel withdraws and follows all the UN resolutions, then we'll have a Palestinian state, which means coexistence.
I'll ask you about that in a minute, but I want to focus on how he was perceived by Palestinians in Gaza, and did that change in any way after October the 7th, do you think?
You know, the position of groups like that, whether Hamas or Fatah or PFLP or any Palestinian group, it goes up and down with the times. If the times are good, people's lives are better, they give them more support. If they're suffering and the future looks bleak, they withdraw some of that support. Hamas got big support from its supporters and also others in Palestine after the October 7 attack. And that has since gone down. The last poll that was done shows that the support, I think it reached around 65%, went down to somewhere around 40 or something like that. So it goes up and down, and it's not based on personalities. It's based on what they do, what these groups do. The important thing historically about Hamas is that it has constantly worked for a unified position among all of the members of Hamas who represent slightly different tactics, but it also always represents the common nationalist aspirations and negotiating positions of the Palestinian people as a whole. And this is why it has lasted for so long.
I was talking in particular about perceptions of him, given the deaths of 43,000 people in Gaza. But I want to focus on something that you mentioned earlier, suggesting that he may have had a pragmatic side to him as well, not just a military man, but somebody who considered making concessions to the secular Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. I mean, what did you mean by that?
I don't know if concessions is the right word, maybe compromises, maybe mutual movement towards a common agreement that serves both sides. He did that a lot, and he did it with members of Hamas, between the political and the military wings. He did it with other Palestinian groups. He was involved in the negotiations to have a unified Palestinian government when Fatah in the West Bank and Hamas and Gaza split after the 2006 elections, and he did it with Arab countries and other people. So he does have that pragmatic side to him. These are not people who just want to fight all the time. These are people who want to achieve Palestinian dignity, statehood, rights, sovereignty, and a normal, decent human life. They understand that resistance movements and liberation movements always pay a price. That you never get liberation from colonial occupation cost-free. And you're right that the big destruction of Gaza and the killings of so many Palestinians have cost Hamas some popularity loss. But this is normal. This is human nature. There's nothing particular about Sinwar. This is how human beings react. If conditions are good, they support the leaders.
All right, Rami, good to hear your perspective on all of that. Rami Khouri, Distinguished Fellow at the American University of Beirut.